You are content. The story, the characters, the graphics, and you. The whales need someone to pay to win against. That's you. That's why they don't chase you with subscription fees. That's why they skirt the line of abhorrent just diligently enough that you don't stop playing. If there's no krill for the whales to eat, they'll leave. You're the krill. It was a friend back in STO days that clued me in on this. The intuitive take on microtransactions suggests that they keep the free players around in the hopes that someday they'll become paying players. But that's not really how things worked in STO. The longer you played, the less you needed to pull out the credit card. The people topping the charts knew the game systems up and down. We weren't paying a thing. So why wouldn't they use some sort of mechanism to force us freeloaders out? Well, because we were stars. The nerdiest stars in the world, mind you. We were topping the leaderboards in a Star Trek game. But there, we were kings. I remember the first time someone asked me about the video, and when I asked him, what video, he paused and then answered, yours. I was just posting videos for fun at the time. Before that moment, I didn't realize people had actually been using them to set up ships. At the time, there were 3 different crews that would trade records back and forth, and everyone knew their names. You don't fill out an application to start hearing your name in local chat, but you sure notice when it starts to happen. And when a lot of us started using a new ship, other people would notice, and they'd pull out them credit cards and buy that ship. The fact that we never dropped a dime didn't matter. We were content. Plain and simple. But that's not the only content I've been for someone else's game. I played a lot of Grand Theft Auto Online. I was no king there. No, I actually didn't like the PvP in that game at all. I was just there to play the missions. The group I played with, we always said we'd pay for private servers. Under protest, mind you, but we would have. But there's a reason Rockstar never went for that. You see, the people who drop hundreds on shark cards every month, yet they don't have friends. They're the kind of people who couldn't quite hack it back in Battlefield or Call of Duty, so they play GTAO and laugh giddy every time that they use a fighter jet to take out a truck that can't shoot back. If there were private servers, we wouldn't play with those people. They'd have to play with others like themselves, and they wanted to do that about as much as we did. Take a look at the thousands of GTA videos online. No one's watching that vid where you totally took out that guy. They're watching videos of the people doing crazy stunts or weird races or, well, that's kind of it. But that 95% of us that watch those videos and are doing those things aren't dropping money. And if we aren't forced to play with the brat who stole Mummy's credit card, they won't spend. Rockstar couldn't care less if we're having fun. They already have our money. No, they just need the game to be interesting enough that we'll be the targets for someone with a flying motorcycle so they can shoot us like fish in a barrel. GTAO is the quintessential example of a game that should have been excellent, but was deliberately ruined in the pursuit of money. Thing is, I'm not against paying for a service. I would have been okay with a reasonable monthly fee to pay GTAO if I could play it without the whole arms race. This was probably the best game ever made, back when PvP had a semblance of balance. Trying to deliver a stolen car while another gang boss chased you is good content. You keep running, stop and fight, lose them in traffic. But when that other player just goes and gets their fighter jet, yeah, that's not great content. I'm not even inclined to call that content. Whether or not you get pasted is no longer in your hands. All it is now is people trying to out-troll each other. It was an interesting gambit for Rockstar. Do they want to make a small, ongoing income from a lot of people, or just hit up the whales? Turns out you can't do both. It's a pity we don't live in a world where they'd go for the just make a good game option, but we're long past cynicism at this point. This is just normal. I got really into that vehicle shooter game Crossout for a while. I remember first seeing it and being totally down right away. Scrolled down to see how much it cost and my heart sunk. Free. Well, this is gonna suck. I gave it a try and got about a month out of it. But any free game eventually turns into a grind designed to get your money. Messed up thing was that I was totally ready to drop some AA money on it day one. If I could have had that game, but with a sane progression system that wasn't hours and hours for every single item, I would have dropped some cash. But not enough, apparently. Apparently, there are enough people out there dropping big cash on this thing to warrant all the free player churn. And those people need someone to shoot, and you can tell when they're running out of them, because that's when the ads start popping up again. Of course, the game that inspired this video was The First Descendant, which actually looks like it'd be fun. Is it? I don't know. I'll pay a reasonable price for a game, but I'm not going to drop hundreds of dollars a month on one, so I'm not their target demographic. No, all they want from me is to be filler for the people who will drop the cash. And those people aren't going to want to be shown up. It's not just that the game could be pay to win, the entire business model necessitates it. If someone who dropped 200 bucks can't beat the free players, they won't get that dopamine hit and they won't spend more. If I find a way to out DPS a paying player, to them it's not a balance issue. It's a business imperative that I get nerfed. I know that because that's what they used to do in Star Trek Online. I'm much more inclined to look at something like Helldivers 2. Yeah, there are microtransactions, but by all accounts they're not egregious, and you can earn the stuff in-game without an insufferable amount of grind. Why can they do this? Because they charge money for the game. How well the game sells is now a function of how good the game is. I would rather pay for Helldivers 2 than play the first Descendant for free. But I didn't. Kinda bears mentioning. I went over to the dark side and dropped $5 on Ghost Recon Wildlands, and it turns out you can get about 60 hours out of that game without any grinding at all. It had been about 10 years since I paid for a newbie game, and I think I got enough of a fill for another 10 years. Wonder what $5 will get you in the first Descendant. Of course, if they'd balanced the first Descendant as a paid game, I probably would have spent some AA money on it. It did at least look cool. As it stands, I will see you all in Helldivers next time it goes on sale.